Vanilla wafer cookies, anyone? We've got that on today's Know the Cause. Also, the first half of the show is about cancer. If diet is so crucial to cancer patients, why don't our oncologists know anything about it? And then a brand new doctor for many of you, Dr. Jonathan Stegall, is going to be here. He's an integrative oncologist. He's a cancer doctor, and he believes nutrition is very important. As the show goes on, we're talking about gasoline on your skin. Is that cancer causing? We've got the vanilla wafers, and then we've got Marty. Marty Whittakin, a dear friend of mine, is going to answer the question, why in the world is the aging process considered a disease? Anything we can do to reverse that? All that and more on today's Know the Cause. My name is Doug Kaufman. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. Folks, once again, I want to talk a little bit about cancer because it's so obvious out there. I mean, so many people have it. Cancer institutions are a booming business, and that makes me mad and sad simultaneously. Would you think with 188 IQs of every doctor out there, they were the kids in high school that were a little bit different than everybody else, and they went on to study great things and become scientists with the hope and the goal in mind of helping other people. Well, if cancer rates are going like this, in the year 2017, are they helping other people? Do you think they're a little frustrated that they came out of medical school to read the same papers you and I do, that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women, or vice versa, are going to get cancer in their lifetimes? Is that a medical breakthrough? When was the last medical breakthrough? You want my opinion? Penicillin. 1950, penicillin. We could finally cure something in medicine. Where are we today with cancer? This is just so sad. We don't have a handle on this, but there's $1 trillion in treating it. So let's keep going down that road. I don't think they're bad people. I think they're just lost. They trusted that their medical education had the answers, and it didn't, okay? So we need to ask ourselves this question. If diet is so crucial to a cancer patient's survival, why isn't it ever addressed? And I got this doctor that I'm going to introduce you to here on the PowerPoint presentation. PR Web, I don't know who they are, states that according to the National Cancer Institute, an astounding 20 to 40% of cancer patients die from causes related to and there's that word, nutrition. So why isn't nutrition or diet addressed? Not from the cancer itself. So you got 1 in 3 dying from malnutrition. And 80% of cancer patients develop some form of malnutrition. Malnutrition, poor nutrition. And yet, let's go to the next slide, because this really was an eye-opener for me. There's a doctor named Richard Frank. He's an oncologist that works for WebMD, which is a pharmaceutical-owned website, I believe. With 20 to 90% of cancer patients using nutritional supplements, he is confident with the cancer questions. I can answer those. But then come the questions that I'm not so confident in answering. Inevitably, every patient asks, what should I eat? How can I fight the cancer by eating the right foods? They want to know which foods actually help them fight the cancer better and live longer. Then will vitamins help? He's not alone. He's honest. He's sitting there, in this picture in WebMD with a woman trying to explain, I can answer the mutations, the DNA aberrations, the things that go on. But when it comes to that patient saying, will vitamin C help me? They're lost. That should be where they are found. That should be what they know, not another drug that you swallow and it kills regular cells and cancer cells. That's not exciting, and yet it has been for the past 50 years in cancer research. I hate to say it, we're not winning the war. Okay, many of you think we are. I would argue that with you. Where does cancer patient find nutritional information? Okay, this was huge, Medscape. The April 2017 issue of Nutrition and Cancer International Journal reports that a team of investigators reviewed all 21 National Comprehensive Cancer Networks, NCCNs, member institutions, and found that only 4 provided nutritional guidelines for cancer patients during treatment. Wow. I used to go to the National Cancer Institute, cancer.gov, and they would say eat lots of mashed potatoes and so forth. And I would poo-poo that. It's gone, dissolved. Nothing about diet. They defer everything to licensed dietitians. That reminds me of the food pyramid. Moreover, many of the recommendations posted conflicts with each other, says Medscape. Half of the sites recommend a low-fat diet, while the other half recommend a high-fat diet. They are lost, but should we be lost also? Folks, you've been watching Know the Cause. You can go on YouTube. You can see my talks about cancer. I am a lone wolf. I am all alone out here talking about this. Trust me, when I'm gone, everybody will be talking about this. Fungi, not bacteria, not protozoa, not viri. Fungi release a poison that kills human tissues. Before it does that, it encapsulates itself in a little formation, a round formation in your body, a sac formation. And it releases these poisons through that sac. I gotta tell you folks, fungus and cancer are being called very often the same things, okay? Diet, therefore, plays a huge role. Bottom line, eat foods that fungi don't. Friends, I'm going to introduce you to someone right now that is an amazing doctor. He's an oncologist. Now, don't say that. Most people hear oncologist and they say, oh boy, my mom, my sister, my dad. This is an integrative oncologist. Thank you for coming in, Dr. Jonathan Stegall. We want to talk a little bit about that name. Oncology, I've spoken at meetings in oncology, so have you. And then integrative, and listen what integrative means when it comes to oncology.
Well, integrative is basically taking the best of conventional or Western medicine, oncology as we know it, and blending that with the best, more natural and alternative therapies. So what that may look like is, we take advantage of chemotherapy and sometimes surgery and radiation if that's appropriate for the patient, but we also emphasize nutrition and lifestyle and other therapies in a way that's really tailored to each patient.
You've got a bunch of viewers out there watching this right now and saying the best of chemo and radiation, it took my mother, and it's ugly, it doesn't just take, and yet what you have found is it fair for me to ask if we are overdosing people on chemo and radiation? Are we using too much?
I think we are. We know chemotherapy works. We know it kills cancer cells in the lab and in the body. Right. But the problem is, at the doses that we typically use it at, we're giving way too much to the point where there's a lot of collateral damage. Patients are having their hair fall out, they're nauseous, they're weak, their immune systems are very low. And so we found that by using lower doses, we're still getting a valuable effect against the cancer, but we're not getting all that collateral damage.
Are you able to target chemo now? If someone has, lymphoma, can you target or can you inject chemotherapy or nutrition? Can you help them in integrative oncology by targeting the cancer?
We do feel that we can target the cancer cells, and it's not just about the tumor, it's also all the cancer cells floating around in the body, because that's what a lot of people aren't aware of, is we have a tumor mass, but that tumor, from the time it's very, very small, is releasing cells into the circulation called circulating tumor cells. And those are basically just cancer stem cells that are just looking for a reason to get together with their other cancer cell friends and create a metastasis somewhere else. Yeah. And so really addressing the tumor and the whole body is essential. But in terms of targeting those cells, we feel like the way we do chemotherapy in my office does a really good job of that.
It's really unique. I got to tell you, years ago we began doing, I was with a doctor out here in Dallas, we began doing something called a Myers cocktail, right? Vitamin C, zinc, manganese, and so forth. My only negative to that, for all the doctors watching right now who are doing it, feel good to bump up that vitamin C. The 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams that's recommended, when we got up to bigger doses of that, we began seeing some immune, boost with all of that. You use IV vitamins.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They're essential.
What else do you do along the field of nutrition?
Well, the IV vitamins and minerals, dietary approaches are important. So we talk about a certain cancer diet that we like. One thing I've had really great success with is something called lymph drainage therapy. So that's actually stimulating the immune system in a powerful way. I have a specialist who comes in who's trained in lymph drainage therapy, and it actually stimulates the movement of that lymphatic system, which we know is essential for the immune system.
Like a massage, a body?
It's similar to a massage, but it's actually equipment that's used using a very small electrical field. It sounds crazy, but it's really not. To actually get that lymph moving, because what we found in a lot of cancer patients is there's congestion of that lymphatic system. So that's needed to get those immune system cells working and going after the cancer like we want them to.
In the last minute, talk to us a little bit about cancer statistics. I mean, it's scary.
Oh, it really is. I mean, in America alone in 2017, we're estimated to have about 1.7 million new cancer cases and about 600,000 cancer deaths. And so that number goes up every single year. So next year it'll be even more. And so I think we need to not only intensify our fight against cancer, but we need to look at it in a different way. And go back to President Nixon in the early 70s, the war on cancer.
Right.
And we're going to, since then we've spent billions of dollars in research on it. We haven't really made a lot of significant gains in terms of the survival rate from cancer. So I think we need to reframe our direction. You
know what, guys, we tend to, in medicine, throw money at everything, right? If we throw more money at cancer, it'll just go away. It hasn't worked. We need to throw common sense at this disease. What Dr. Stegall does is recognize every one of you as a thumbprint. You're open for patients, new patients, so there's the information if you want to become a new patient. By the way, he's in the middle of America. Hop on a plane for $99, you can go see him. If you have cancer, if you have a loved one with cancer, I'm going to recommend that you get another opinion, and you get it from this man. Thank you so much for continuing my education. Very good.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
None of you knew Doug Kaufman before he was nutritionally born again, but vanilla wafers were a home run for me. Watch this.
From Guiltless Superfoods. Today we're going to use our awesome Guiltless 7-seed flour to make a vanilla wafer type cookie. It's really fun to be able to use this flour now because there are so many typical things, treats, desserts that you actually kind of had to stay away from on the phase one diet. But now when we have this flour, we can create so many of those kind of fun special foods that we've loved so much. So in order to make these cookies, we're going to get started by creaming our butter. This is 1/2 cup butter, and I'm going to just throw the whole thing in there. And we're going to get that going just by itself to get it nice and soft. Okay, the butter's soft. Now I'm going to add in 1 cup of xylitol. And just a pinch of sea salt. The key to a soft cookie is really to allow the butter and the sugar and the salt to cream, to get really creamy and fluffy and light and get a lot of air in there. That's what's going to give you a really soft, moist, delicious cookie. So don't rush this part of the process. Give it its time. It really does take about 4 to 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put my mixer a little on higher speed, about medium-high speed is what we're going to kick it up to now. Okay, we've done about 5 minutes of creaming our butter and sugar. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure everything's off my paddle and off the edges of the bowl. It has a nice, creamy, soft texture now. And I'm ready to move forward with some liquid ingredients. This is 1 large egg white, 1 tablespoon of unsweetened almond milk, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. Get that all combined. Looks good. Okay, and now slowly we're going to add in our dry ingredients. This is some baking powder. And lastly, we're going to add in our Guiltless seed flour. I can already tell that it's a really soft and fluffy cookie batter. This is going to be so delicious. All right. Everything looks totally mixed and combined. The flour and the butter and the sugar. Everything is incorporated. Looks nice and buttery. Our next step is we're gonna throw this cookie batter into a piping bag, and if you don't have a piping bag, we're gonna use a Ziploc baggie. Okay, all the cookie batter went to one corner of the bag. Get all the air out. Roll it tight. We're gonna grab our baking sheet lined with parchment paper and just snip off the corner. And now we're ready to go. We're gonna bake these in the oven at 375 for about 13 to 14 minutes. I'm gonna go pop them in the oven now. Our cookies are done. They baked at 350 for about 14 minutes in the oven. And you can see that they're perfectly baked. They're nice, a little crispy on bottom, but soft in the center. This one's for me. It's so moist and delicious. The xylitol sweetens it up perfectly. The butter is so yummy. I'm gonna wash it down with a little bit of milk. Find this recipe on knowthecause.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
You know, in the old days, we used to have somebody pump our gas for us. Now we pump it. Did you ever release the thing and gas gets on your hand? Jenny's going to discuss that. Then after that, Kyle is going to teach us about Candida yeast killers. Watch this.
Hi, I'm Jenny Herbacek with the Cancer Connection. When you gas up your car, do you pump one last squirt of gas after the nozzle clicks off? If so, changing that habit is something you can do in the name of cancer prevention. That last squirt can spill fuel and undermine the pump's vapor recovery system, which is designed to keep toxic chemicals such as cancer-causing benzene out of the air, where it can come in contact with your skin and get into your lungs. So when the pump clicks off, consider it done. For Know the Cause, I'm Jenny Herbacek.
Well, everybody writes in and asks us, what are our favorite Candida killers? There's a million of them out there, but I'll narrow it down to 2 or 3. Number 1, medium chain triglyceride oil, or MCT oil. This comes from coconut. Medium chain triglycerides are extremely antifungal. They are made up of caprylic acid, lauric acid, and capric acid, and boy, they are wonderful Candida killers, especially for the gut. Number 2, cloves. This is a weird one, but if you can just chew on cloves, yes, it might make your mouth numb, but oh my goodness, does it work at killing fungus. And number 3, I'm sorry to bore you, but it's oregano oil. I've never stopped loving this. So many studies have been done with this and the 2 others we talked about. Give these a try.
Thank you, Kyle. That was just great. Candida killers, now you know. Marty Whittakin, a certified clinical nutritionist. Can she answer this question? She does better than anyone else. Why is it in America the aging process is considered a disease? Watch this.
I just don't think we ought to take the standard advice that if you're old and you're aging, you can expect this disease, that condition, this dysfunction. I don't believe in aging gracefully. I believe in aging with energy and vigor and a passion for something that wants to get you out of bed every day. In order to do that, though, you have to not do the average thing. You have to eat a better diet, more vegetables. You have to take foundational supplements like fish oil and magnesium and a multivitamin and probiotics, vitamin D, vitamin K. I take a handful, but a lot of my peers are taking a handful of medications. Those have never been tested before altogether. It's a giant chemistry experiment. We didn't sign a release form for it, and that has a lot to do with that slippery slope toward crisis medicine where the doctors say, oh, there's not much more we can do. Well, yes, there is. Even if you're feeling awful, follow Doug's advice, read up on what you can do that's alternative, because there's really not much help at the doctor's office because the system is set up to dispense medicine. There's not time to counsel you about getting exercise. There is no pill, natural or otherwise, it's a substitute for exercise. You have got to get up and move. And women, you've got to do strength training because that's what holds everything together, and you don't want to be frail. So I'm not going to admit how old I am, but it's pretty darn old, and if you're good on Google, you can probably find out. I just say, don't act your age, act a lot younger, think younger, and you will be younger.
Boom, was that a home run, Marty? I got up this morning, 6 o'clock, dark out, worked out hard, 28 minutes was my workout, went in and cut an organic grapefruit in half and ate both halves of it. Folks, we can't stop the aging process, but you can certainly retard the physiologic aging process. That's what Marty was talking about. Anybody can do it. You probably recognize Marty, right? You'll see her on here again and again. She is a strong advocator for Dr. Ohhira's probiotics, and I just absolutely love her. Been a friend of mine forever. What did you think about today's show? Interesting. We got Marty toward the end of the show. Toward the opening of the show, Dr. Jonathan Stegall. I got to tell you something. If I'm watching this show and I have cancer and my health is faltering, I am getting on an airplane. Georgia is in the middle of the U.S., more or less, and I am going to make an appointment with Dr. Jonathan Stegall. Thank you so much, Dr. Stegall, for sharing your knowledge with us, and thank you for your eyes on this show every day. God bless you. Bye-bye.